Welcome back, everyone, to the Dental Pipeline. We're so excited to be here on our second episode already. Like Russell mentioned in the last episode, it's been a long time coming. We're ready to dive in and get our feet wet and get things going. So today, one thing we're going to be talking about is the why of dentistry. And it's so important, and with anything we do in our life, in order to push through difficult times, push through hard things, to have a reason for the pain, a reason for the suffering or things we're going through. But before we get there, I'm with my co-host as always, Russell Bodley. Russell, how's it going?
Dude, it's great. Super excited to be here. Yeah, I this is so much fun being able to produce this content and get the ball rolling. One of the things that we kind of forgot to mention in our last episode, just a little bit more about this podcast and this series. We're really wanting to create shorter episodes, something that's more easily digestible for each of you as listeners, something that doesn't take super long. So when you're coming to and from school or your job or whatever you're doing, you can just throw on your headphones and listen to us ramble on and hopefully glean a few things from what we say, and maybe have some ideas of what you can do to better your resume and become a better applicant and in the future a better dentist. Yeah, so without further ado, this episode is all about why dentistry. We thought this was really fitting because in the application, we have to talk about why we chose dentistry. And honestly, throughout your life, you're going to want to know why you chose dentistry. There are a lot of books that are written on the why, and they kind of dive into the how, the what, and then the center of the target is the why. You want to have that as your focal point. And so we kind of want to talk about our stories personally. So maybe you can start thinking about your story as well. And if you've already thought about it, that's great. That's a good start. So first off, my story with dentistry really started as a really young child. My parents bought this small toy. I can't remember what brand it was. I don't know if they even make them anymore, but it was this little purple monkey and it had no teeth in it. It just had little spots that you could put Play-Doh teeth. And I just remember playing with it day in and day out. I had this little drill, all these obviously really childish plastic things, little mirror. I'm sure they probably had some glasses or something to put on my face that were kind of like loops. And I just remember spending a ton of time using that. And obviously, I didn't know at that point that I wanted to be a dentist. In fact, I thought I wanted to be a vet. And it's probably because I had this little monkey that I thought I wanted to be a vet. And later on in my life, um, I started to develop the understanding of life and kind of figured out my path. Shadowing was a very big part of my story. It all actually started with shadowing my dad. My dad is an anesthesiologist in the medical field, and so what he does is, if you don't know what that is, he puts people to sleep. And there's a lot to it. That's more than just putting people to sleep, but that's one of the big things that he does. And I had the opportunity to go in and shadow. And I really, really liked the medical field. I just was super interested in the surgeries that I saw and just interacting with people that to me seemed very high caliber, that just knew a lot of information. And that really resonated with me. And I thought, that's something that I want to do in my life. And so at first, I kind of thought I might want to go into medicine. But as I grew up, I had some youth leaders in church that were really amazing people, and they were dentists. Some of them were orthodontists, some of them were oral surgeons, and some of them were just general dentists as well. And as I grew up with them leading me, I just looked up to them a ton. And something about them just struck a chord with me. And I really wanted that in my life. And what I came to find out was part of it was just the lifestyle that they lived. They were able to set aside time and they were able to come and help us as youth become people that were contributing to the society and they just were really helpful. And unfortunately, I never really had the opportunity of shadowing any female dentists as I grew up, but now that I'm in dental school, man, it's awesome. Female dentists are amazing. I have some amazing female dentists that I look up to here at this dental school and around this area that I know and that I've met. So I guess a little bit about where I'm at. I'm a D2 right now in Kansas City University. It's a new dental school, and I can get into that a little bit later in one of the future episodes. But so just to kind of know where I'm at. But yeah, so shadowing was huge for me. One of my very first shadowing experiences with a dentist was actually with my oral surgeon. I never had to have braces. Growing up, I went to the dentist every 6 months. My parents were really good at keeping us to go to the dentist every 6 months and get our cleanings and everything. And I never had any cavities, so I didn't have that really cool, eye-opening experience with general dentists or pediatric dentists. My big experience was actually with an oral surgeon, and he was one of those youth leaders that I was talking about. Really, really cool role model. And he allowed me to stay awake during the surgery. One, I don't recommend that for everybody. It's kind of scary, but it was really cool. He was super kind about it. He was very thoughtful in how he talked me through the surgery. I just asked him like, "Hey, can I watch it?" So he gave me a little mirror and let me watch what he was doing. So if you're a little queasy with blood, this might not be the right field for you. There are definitely things you can do in general dentistry that are not as surgery related, like oral surgery. But it was really cool. All my teeth had erupted, so the surgery was pretty simple. He really just popped everything out, and after numbing me up, and just the way that he talked about the surgery and kind of talked me through what he was doing, I really liked. I thought it was super fun and super cool. And so that was my first real shadowing experience. Being the patient in the chair, I kind of got to shadow him. And from then, that just really sparked my interest in dentistry, and I got to go and shadow my pediatric dentist later on, and a couple of general dentists after that before heading into college, into my undergrad. And so once I got into undergrad, I already knew I'm going to go into dental school. And once again, we're going to talk about like if you're in that situation, what should you do looking forward? But yeah, so me in this situation, I knew I wanted to be a dentist. I got to dental school. What now? Like, where do I go from there? And so I got involved as much as I could, got into the dental club and started getting involved in other clubs as well. And Sam and I eventually we had the opportunity to go to the Dominican Republic. And this is another one of those pinnacle periods in my life that told me validated that I should go into dentistry. We went to the Dominican Republic on a little mission trip. It was a just a healthcare mission trip. It wasn't specifically for dentistry, but we got to the Dominican Republic, went into the center of the Dominican Republic. I can't remember exactly where. I think it was San Juan de la Maguana or something like that. That's what it was called.
Right.
Yeah, and we got to meet some really cool people. That was actually my first experience with a female dentist. Unfortunately, I don't speak Spanish, and she only spoke Spanish, but I could feel her energy. I could tell she loved what she did. And Sam speaks Spanish, so he was able to translate a little bit for me. And I learned that she was just completely volunteering on her own free will and her time. And she just did this because she loved the people of the Dominican Republic and she wanted to help. And so we got to assist her in the dentistry, but we also got to do some rotations in other sectors of healthcare. And my favorite part of the whole trip was assisting in the dentistry sector. We got to help out with pharmacology, the little pharmacy that we had, and I got to help out with the doctors and a couple of the other sections that were there. Helped go out into the community and talk with people and try to spread the gospel because there was a pastor that was with us and try to get people to come and visit. us, this group of dentists, doctors, and physicians that were all trying to help them. But it was crazy that all of the people that were there, and Sam can verify this, almost every single person that came through the dental line as well, because their teeth were bombed out. They almost all of them had disintegrated from their mouth, and it was even the children. It was really sad. And I just remember thinking, if they had something like public health here, or they had some kind of education, this wouldn't have to be the case. And so that sparked something inside me, knowing if I can learn this material, I can at some point teach people and help them so that they're not in this same situation. Because how sad would it be to not have your teeth, not be able to eat, not be able to smile without being self-conscious of yourself? And so that was one of those pinnacle periods in my life.
Yeah, I can just emphasize everything that Russell shared about the Dominican Republic, and I'm going to hit a little bit on that as well as I kind of tell my story, and which is different from Russell's, but there definitely have been overlap, being that him and we actually went to the same high school, we went to the same college, we were roommates before I married up to with my wife Emily, and then he eventually married up with his wife Sierra. But like we've always been really close, so there will be definitely some overlap as I tell my story, but a little bit different of an experience. So my wife for dentistry, I think, all comes back to dentistry being a platform where we can teach and help people better themselves, right? Like it comes from this ideology that I can come in with knowledge and I can come in with skills I've developed and change someone's life for the better. And I think that's a really cool aspect of dentistry as a whole. But it all started when I was little. I didn't have a little monkey that I could drill on, unfortunately. Maybe if Russell had been around, I could have practiced on his teeth, and I would be a lot better today. But anyways, I started when I was very little. I wanted to be just like my dad. Similar to Russell shared some sentiments about his dad and going and shadowing him as an anesthesiologist. So my dad, when he was in his mid-30s and I was about 7 or 8 years old, he had his third life crisis, is what I like to call it. Decided he was going to go back to school and become a dentist. So he ended up getting rid of his hot tub retail company that he owned at the time and moved me and my entire family down to Las Vegas, where he would pursue the prerequisites required for dental school, but then also he would pursue dental school at UNLV. So we followed him. My mom and all of us as kids went with him to dental school. It definitely was a partnership going into that process. People would ask my dad why dental school or how he was doing dental school with 6 kids, because I'm the oldest of 6 kids. And he said, it's easy. I just wake up in the morning and say, see you later. So he definitely had this good companion with him. My mom was able to help with me and my younger siblings while he was going through the difficult or the trenches of dental school. But I sat there and just watched him go through something so hard for other people, for me, for my siblings, for my mom, and for his patients. Seeing him go practically live in the library, influential for me in my young years. Matter of fact, when we were driving past the library one time, my little sister pointed at the library and said, that's where Dad lives, because that's how much time he spent in the library studying for dental school. And so we didn't get to see him much except on weekends. He made it a point to not do any schoolwork on Sundays so he could spend time with us as a family. But basically, what I learned from this experience is when you want something so bad in your life and you have the support to make it happen, why not go forward with it? Why not do it? And seeing him, he thought of, as being the oldest, he thought, since I remembered and experienced him in dental school, he thought of all his kids, I'd be the last one that wanted to do dental school because I actually remember what it was like for him. But yeah, that whole experience was super foundational for my desire to become a dentist.
That's cool.
So from there, I was able to go, got into high school. I went on a mission for my church for 2 years, and that's where I learned Spanish. Russell mentioned that I spoke Spanish when we were on our trip. Russell speaks German, which is way cooler, but Spanish may be
Not
a
at
little
all.
more
Not at all.
useful. But anyways, so where was I? So when I got into college, or when I came home from this mission for my church, I was interested in the medical field because I'd seen my dad push through dental school, and I saw how much he loved his job, helping people. And I was just like, man, that's what I want. I want that lifestyle. So I looked into medicine, I looked into dentistry, I kind of looked into it all, and I got an internship at the University of Utah where I was able to go in and perform surgery on sheep testing a medical device related to wound-related bacterial infections. So we went in there and we were able to get certified on leading these surgeries. And when I was getting in hands-on working with, one of my fellow coworkers who was assisting me in these surgeries, I got to this point where I just fell in love with the hands-on aspect of the medical field. And I thought, where better within medicine can I use my hands in dentistry? Even a general dentist needs these hand skills. And Russell can tell you he's already drilling on these teeth and getting things rolling, and there's a learning curve associated with that. But being in that OR, working on those animals, made me recognize, wow, like I love the care involved, but also the art form that dentistry and medicine can be. And so from there, I decided, you know what? I want to still do dentistry. I want to be in the healthcare field because it allows me to use my hands, embrace this art that Russell has mentioned to me. That's one thing he loves about dentistry, but embrace that art, but then also embrace the ability to provide a service that no one else can, being that professional in that situation.
Absolutely.
So and Russell mentioned the Dominican Republic, so I thought I'd hit on that on my perspective a little bit too. Yeah, and I don't know if I can really add much more to what he said other than the thought that continually kept going through my mind while I was there was, wow, what if these people just knew a little more about dental care? What if they'd just been educated a little more about dental care? And this kind of goes back to our first episode where we talked about one thing we really look to do is to educate and elevate. And I just think education is really a way to elevate people's life already. I just thought, man, what if these people had heard about a toothbrush? I don't even know how many of these people we were able to help really knew what a toothbrush was, or if they had one in their bathroom at home. But I as I sat there and reflected on that, I thought, wow, if I can become that healthcare professional, if I can become that dentist, then that gives me a platform to go and teach people skills necessary to change their life. And that's the why behind dentistry, that it keeps coming back for me. And I've loved the journey, and that why has continually been fortified by these experiences I've had. I promise you, all of our listeners, that you will have experiences that will add to that toolbox of whys that you'll be able to pull out and remember, okay, this is why I'm in this situation. This is why I'm putting myself through this hard stuff so I can get to this end goal. So with that in mind, I think, Russell, we've talked a little bit about our whys, but we wanted to jump into maybe some broad or general whys that people can pull with them into the dental field.
Yeah, absolutely. So why dentistry? A lot of times you're going to probably hear this phrase, not just from us, but from a lot of dentists. And once you get into dental school, you're going to hear this phrase a lot. Why dentistry? Why are you choosing this field? This is really, really crucial for you to understand why you, because so I just finished my first year of dental school, and it's not easy. I'm not saying it's not possible. Lots of people have done it, but you have to put a lot of time into it and a lot of effort. There's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, as some people might say, that you've got to put into this. And especially if you want to get out on the other side and really hit the ground running and be able to make a huge change in people's life from the day you get out, from the day you graduate. And so, I mean, since we're in the midst of the grind right now, Sam's just about to start his first year. I'm just about to start my second year. This why is super pivotal and crucial for us because there's going to be those days where you don't want to keep studying. You don't want to continue on. You just want to curl up and jump in your bed and watch a show, but you've got a physiology exam tomorrow, or you've got an anatomy exam, or you have to drill tomorrow, like a practical where you're going to be tested on how well you drill in a short period of time, and you have to do it perfect. Something about dentistry is you strive for perfection. I mean, everything about dentistry is kind of that perfection, right? And so having that why and understanding what is going to motivate you in those times that are difficult is super important. And so we kind of wanted to break down this why factor into what are some good, some better, and some best factors or reasons that we can we can talk about. Yeah, so like these good, better, and best things that you can look for and to try and help build your why. So Sam, if you can kind of talk about those good points, that'd be super awesome.
Totally. Jumping in, I love this hierarchy, right? Good, better, best. And what we're trying to say with this is these motivating factors, they all can be beneficial, especially if you start stacking on a bunch of them at the same time and compiling them. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But first, I'd like to start with one motivating factor that comes to a lot of people's mind when they hear dentistry or the medical field, and that's money. And the reason why we put this in the good category is because if the only thing on your mind is I want to get out there and make some money, it won't be enough. That factor won't be enough to create a meaningful motivating factor to get you to keep studying instead of crawling in bed a little bit earlier when you have an exam the next day. I haven't experienced where, well, I've heard of, there was an advisor that I worked with closely when I was attending my undergrad. And at one point, I heard a story how a student came in and sat down with this advisor. And the advisor asked him, "So why are you thinking medicine?" And this was for medicine, but I think the story also applies to dentistry as well. And the individual said, "Well, my dad has told me that's where all the money's at. And that's why I'm trying to get into this." And I can promise you right now that if that's your only motivating factor, there are so many other things you can do, so many other paths you can take to get money that will not be as hard, that will not take as much time as it takes to get in and be successful in dental school. I can guarantee it right now that there's other things you can do with your life that will produce that for you. And that leads me also to another point about prestige. Like lots of times there's prestige associated with being an expert in anything, and that includes dentistry. Lots of times I think we get in the habit of thinking I need to be in this career so that way these people respect me or I feel respect from the world. There's another friend of mine who was pursuing a degree in order to get into medical school and move on to the next step. And at one conversation, he was telling me how he was now considering to go into finance. And while this wasn't the only reason he was considering staying on his medical school trajectory that he was on, he mentioned that, yeah, it's just a lot more honorable or prestigious to become a doctor than it is to be a financial advisor. And I think once again, if that's your only motivating factor is, oh, I finally get the respect I deserve or want in my life because I have now a few letters after my name, I promise you that you won't get it. It won't feel what you're expecting it to feel like. So like with money and prestige, I think it's very important that we recognize that while those can be motivating factors for us, they should not be the only or the primary motivating factor for us when we're going into choosing to do this profession.
Absolutely. Actually, that kind of reminds me of a time when I was talking to my little sister. She is in esthetician school right now, and so she's learning how to deal with skin and skincare routines. And she has talked about, well, after I'm done with this degree of sorts, I think I want to go back to college and I want to get my nursing degree because that would be something cool to have, something cool to fall back on if this doesn't pan out, you know. And I kind of thought about that. And my wife is a nurse, and so she had to go through nursing school. And while if you ask my wife, she'll say nursing school was easy, I think that that is solely because she had her why. She understood 100% that was her calling. She needed to do that. Ever since she was young, she's always been a certified nursing assistant and gone and helped. She loves helping older people and she just loves helping people. So for her, nursing school was easy because it was what she was passionate about. And I kind of asked my sister, I was like, well, do you want to be a nurse? And she's like, no, not really. I think it'd be cool to have a nursing degree and it'd be good to have in case that this doesn't pan out, like I said. I don't think personally that that is a strong enough reason why to go and put yourself through something so grueling just to have it. Now, if you are kind of masochistic and you like to put yourself through something that's extremely difficult just because, by all means go for it. But if you want to be successful as a dentist, if you can understand there's more to it than just having the degree, then that will help you a lot more. That's worth so much more.
Totally. Yeah, I completely agree with that. And with that in mind, I think it's a good time to jump to maybe the better category. We'd like to discuss a few better options, better motivating factors, and then that will lead us to some of the best motivating factors that we can develop. But first, I think two examples we've come up with becoming a better or having a better motivating factor or reason is becoming a community leader. As a dentist, like we've mentioned before here, you now basically can get put onto this platform where you can lead others in a lifestyle, in a new lifestyle. Brushing your teeth every day, 2 times a day, and then flossing right on top of that. Doing those things is part of your lifestyle. And being in a place where you now exist as a community leader, where you take it upon yourself to go and oversee that and help others, that can genuinely be a good reason for why you pursue dentistry. I think once again, kind of referring back to the good options or the good reasons, this alone probably doesn't stand on its own 2 feet. You probably want some other factors or motivating reasons to push you through, but it's something that can definitely help you through those hard times, knowing that one day I'll be able to be an influence for good on my community. And and then it kind of connected back to the money thing. I think a better way to think about money as a motivating factor that maybe slides it into this better bracket is thinking of it as a lifestyle, right? It's a way, as a dentist, you can come in and make good money, right? You can have money to do the things you love and be with the people you love, but you can do it without having a crazy schedule. I'm sure many of you are familiar or know people in your life that have done medicine. Maybe they're a surgeon or work at a hospital. They're on call. I know Russell, his dad has experienced this before, and it can make for a crazy, unpredictable schedule. And at least for me, where I like having a schedule, and for me, I love the idea of being able to coach my future kids' soccer games and random stuff like that. That slides that money factor more into the lifestyle for me, knowing that hey, I can make enough money to provide for my family, but then I can be there for my kids and be there for my family for the activities that are important to them.
I think one of the biggest things about dentistry that kind of sparked my interest in comparison to the medical field was that work-life balance. Being able to own your own business, and this isn't to say that you can't do this in medicine, but it's kind of gone the path where if you're in medicine, you're going to be working at a hospital and you can't create your work schedule as easily. When you are the owner of your own business, which I hope dentistry stays this way forever. It's definitely kind of going towards the hospital type style with DSOs, but we can talk about that in a later episode. The work-life balance is amazing in dentistry, and that being a motivating factor is definitely good. It's definitely better. And we think that, yeah, I mean, having that as a motivating factor is not a bad thing for sure. So with that, let's move on to some of the things that we think are the best motivating factors. So a genuine desire to help people. We've touched on this a lot throughout our stories and our whys. Having that genuine desire to help somebody achieve the way that they want to look, the way that they perceive themselves is huge. This profession is a profession of people. You're going to be dealing with people and helping people for the rest of your life if you choose to be a dentist. And having that genuine desire to be of service for these people and help them feel good about themselves, help them to understand and learn about dentistry and healthcare in general is huge. You, as a dentist, the people that you see on a daily basis, a lot of them I've learned throughout some of my courses in dental school, a lot of them don't go and see a physician regularly. So you knowing and understanding the medical side as well is really important, because you might see some of the things that can help them have a better lifestyle just because you know those predisposing factors, and you can help refer them out to a physician and help them have a better life after that. So I mean, it's just the culminating thing. It brings everything together. Having that true desire to be of service for people is going to be huge for you. And if you can develop that, I think it's going to be super easy. Kind of like my wife going into nursing. I really feel like she has that genuine desire, and it's one of the things that really helped her in nursing school, made it feel easy for her.
Totally, yeah. I love that. I love that idea that when we become genuine, we move from maybe this superficial, and really what these other motivating factors at their core may seem a little more superficial, but as we're able to boil down to that genuine desire to help people, even if it starts with, I want a good lifestyle, it becomes something else. And I think, just to add on to that, I kind of, like you mentioned with your wife, she she probably, for her, it's become more of this calling for her to become a nurse.
Absolutely.
And I think if we can get to a point like that where it becomes a calling for us to get into dentistry, then we can really push through those hard times. And while you were talking, it made me think of this quote that I from Ford versus Ferrari. It's, anyways, I'm not sure if many of you have
Great
seen
film.
this.
Great film.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, you should. It's awesome. But there's a quote in there when Carroll Shelby, Matt Damon, who's playing Carroll Shelby, he gets on and gives this little speech, and he talks about something being a calling, or having to do something for their profession. He said, but there are few, a precious few, I don't know if they're lucky or not, but there are a few people who find something they have to do. Something obsesses them. Something that if they can't do it, it's going to drive them clean out of their mind. And so for him, he was referring to making cars and racing, right? That was something that drove him clean out of his mind if he could not do that thing. If we can get dentistry to be that thing for us that drives us clean out of our mind, if we're not able to do that, then we will overcome any hurdle, any mountain that's thrown in front of us along our journey to get to that end point or get to that goal. I know that we can overcome those with that mentality in mind. And in all reality, anyone can learn anything, anyone can become anything, given enough time and given enough energy and motivation to push through those hard times. So it's important, and I think Russell's gonna hit on this a little bit, but taking that, that genuine desire, taking that calling, and by bringing in all those other factors, that's where we can really find that key motivation we need to push through and get to that desired end goal.
Yeah, absolutely. Another book that I think is super great that everyone should read is called Grit, and it really dives into getting this calling feeling as you try to kind of find your why. I mean, it's not talking about the why, but she's talking about having grit and being able to push through things, that all these obstacles that are going to be thrown in your way. And I think that if you have grit, well, if you're desiring to be a dentist, if you want to be a dentist, you need this grit. And it's easy to find if you have your why. All of these things that we've talked about, there are so many more things. This is just the tip of the iceberg. But one of the things that we kind of wanted to talk about was a combination or a culmination of everything that we've talked about, plus everything else, obviously, that we haven't talked about. If you can kind of have this combination to build your why, it's going to be super powerful for you. It's going to help you in dental school. It's going to help you to be a lifelong learner, because as dentists, we don't just learn in dental school. Fortunately, research is ongoing, and we get to be a part of a profession that is growing and that's getting better every single day. And we get to be lifelong learners, and we get to continue this path and this journey of becoming better as individuals and being able to help others become better themselves and helping them on their pathway. And so with that, we kind of wanted to bring this episode to a close.
Yeah. So as we conclude this episode, I'm reminded of a certain study that I learned about during my undergraduate studies. there's evidence and there's been studies shown that when someone goes in negotiating their pay for a new job, when they go in with someone in mind and they feel like they're negotiating on behalf of their family or something or someone in their life that's important to them, that they are able to negotiate a higher pay almost every time. And so when I heard that sitting in that class, it connected a little bit to dentistry for me. If our end goal is that pay and that payday for us is becoming a dentist or, achieving that expertise, we are a lot more likely to negotiate the time and effort we put into it if we feel we're negotiating on behalf of someone or something in our lives. And that something can very well be the calling we feel to this profession, and that someone very well can be the family behind us or ourselves and the things we hope to attain in our own life. So as we finish up, we just like to remind you, go ahead and subscribe to this channel or add this podcast to your the things you listen to. We'd love to continue to get your feedback. I think we've mentioned in the past, but also we'll include in show notes and also in our bio that you can reach us at the dentalpipeline@gmail.com. That's our email that you can reach us at with any questions or comments. And feel free to, if you are watching this on YouTube, to add any comments. As we mentioned previously, we want this to be a collaborative experience with our listeners. And as we wrap up, we just like to say, stay sweet, listeners, but not too sweet, or you'll get cavities. And we'll see you next time on the Dental Pipeline.